Cooking anti-inflammatory food, it's kind of, when we put labels and things, it's not such a good idea. It's all about balance. You know, sometimes you're going to treat yourself, sometimes you're not. But one of the great dishes and one of the great fish to use here is, I'm going to use a lovely piece of cod. Big, chunky, flaky white fillets. And what I'm going to pair with this cod is, I'm going to pair a little bit of shredded red cabbage. Get colour into your dishes. That's the whole trick. It's the more colour generally, as a general rule, the better. I'm also going to use a little piece of broccoli. I'm using stem broccoli. You could use any broccoli. It doesn't have to be too complicated. And the other thing I'm going to do is make a very simple little mango salsa. Mango, great for salsa. It's got that sweetness, which I'm going to balance off with some lime juice. Now, I use a lot of ginger because I'm quite trying to cook in a way that is going to be as beneficial as I can for my own arthritis. So I'll use ginger everywhere I can, because I find, for me, now for other people it mightn't be so good, but I find it's very beneficial in my own diet. So I'm going to pair this salsa. I'm going to use a lot of ginger in it, and I'm also going to use a little diced red onion, about one small red onion or a medium-sized one, some nice fresh coriander. It's very, very simple. And what we're going to do then is kind of partially steam, kind of, I suppose, braise almost the cod in a pan. Very, very fresh, very, very clean dish. And, you know, and also another thing is, it's the main thing with fish isn't the species, it's the freshness. So cod, hake, any nice big chunky piece of fish, this will work great with. I'm cooking it for one portion today. You could easily enough, there's going to be enough of the mango relish here or mango salsa to last a few days. Dishes, you just bulk up your vegetables, your fish, and after that, very, very easy. Now the first thing I'm going to do with this dish is, I've already pre-prepared my mango. I've just simply peeled it, chop it by hand. You'll get a much better texture. My other ingredients, again, I'm using plenty of ginger here. My onions, my coriander, and my lime. And all I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to add my ginger into my mango. Just mix it around a little piece. You see, there's acid in the mango, and that's going to help infuse that ginger, just soften it up, because I'm using raw ginger. You could grate it as well, and if you find there's a bit too much ginger, again, I like it, I use a lot of it, but you don't have to. Again, all recipes, especially these kind of fish recipes, should be almost guidelines. And, you know, people get a little bit stressed out over cooking and things like that, and there's no need to. So I'm going to just mix those through. And the reason I'm just adding the lime and ginger first is that little bit of acid from both the mango and the lime. It's going to kind of cook into that ginger a little bit. The next thing I'm going to add is my red onions. Just to give a little crisp here. You could also use scallions in this. I just like the red onion for a little bit of colour, and it just gives a little bit of balance. You could also use a piece of chilli in that, but I'm going to just stay with this and just keep it nice and sweet. And I'm not going to even use salt in this because I don't think it needs it. And then my little bit of coriander, just to kind of bring the whole thing together. And you can kind of crush this a little bit together and make it a little bit in advance. Give it about, so that it has at least 10 minutes, just to kind of let the flavours infuse together. And we'll just put that aside in the fridge, ready to go with the fish. Really that simple. Nice little simple salsa. Now, the next job I'm going to do is I'm going to just cook my fish. I'll have my salsa ready, so I'm just going to put a little piece of coconut oil into a good non-stick pan. Let that seal up a little bit. And then I'm going to place my fish in. I like to keep the skin on my fish and put its skin side down first. Get a little bit of colour in there. And when this is facing up, I'm just going to season that with a piece of black pepper and a small piece of salt. And then on a moderate heat, I'm just going to let that cook away there for a few seconds until it starts to seal up a little bit. And Just gets a little bit of colour on that skin side. It does take, now different fish do cook different speeds. So, and cod tends to be one of the slower ones to cook. But you'll just let that cook away, and the whole thing is take your time. There's not a lot to go wrong here. Don't be nervous. Some people get nervous for absolutely no reason with fish. Now, having allowed that to cook at a nice low heat, and you've seen I used very, very little oil in this. Just going to flick it over, a little bit of colour there, nothing much. At this point, I'm going to add in all of my vegetables. Red cabbage first, give that a little second to cook out. You do again a small pinch of salt, depending on your own preference. Some people would rather avoid the salt. If you want to avoid the salt, completely your own discretion. And then I'm just going to maybe place my little pieces of broccoli around that as well. I like these kind of one-pan dishes. I probably should have waited for the salt and the seasoning and then seasoned all together. Put a little bit of seasoning. And to this I'm going to put about an espresso cup of water because we're going to be steaming this. And the reason I like to use this steaming method is because, as I've said, often with fish cookery, omega-3 fatty acids and fish cookery does not like a lot of high temperature. So try to stay with poaching, boiling, steaming, you know, stir frying and things like that. So just try to keep your temperatures down a little bit. So I'm just going to cover that up. I'm just going to let that cook away there itself for about on a low heat. And I'm going to let the pan just build up a piece of heat within it. And let it stay on the heat for about a minute. About say 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And then what we'll do is, and this is a very, very important step, after about 45 seconds, turn off the heat, but whatever you do, you need a nice tight fitting lid. Don't lift the lid because you've trapped the heat and there's going to probably be enough heat in that pan to completely cook the fish through. And then let it stand at that heat for about 5 to about 7 minutes, thereabouts, but do not remove the lid. Depending on the thickness of your fish, the cod might take a little bit longer, another piece of fish a little bit shorter. But don't take the lid off. So what I'm going to do now is just, after a few seconds, I'm going to turn off the heat completely. And I'm going to just leave that and let the residual heat in that pan finish the cookery for me. Now, after waiting for, I've waited myself about 6-7 minutes here. I'm just going to have a peek at the cod. Now remember, the heat has been turned off, so this is just the residual heat in the pan. So I'm just going to unveil that for want of a better word. And there we go. As you can see, it's a little bit undercooked, that fish still. So I'm going to, and if that's the case, and as you can see, but it is cooking away very, very nicely. So what I'm going to do is very simply put my lid back on here a second. Just add a little piece more heat. Good high heat with the lid on. You'll hear yourself when the heat goes back into it. And again, different fish will take different amount of times to cook. And then I'm just going to turn that back off again. But again, not remove the lid and let it stand just in that residual heat for about another 3 or 4 minutes, depending. Again, it's impossible to give me an exact time because all fish are different. So when the fish starts to flake apart or has, if you use a little probe thermometer, an internal temperature of about 60-65 degrees. Fish is a little bit lower than meats. Now, there's my fish. And I've just checked that, and that's just starting to flake apart nicely. So, what I'm going to do to serve this little piece of fish then is I'm just going to let it stand in the pan there, and then that'll hold nicely there for a few seconds, and then I'll look at just serving it up. So to serve my fish, I'm going to just very, very simply take some of my nice broccoli, distribute it on my plate. Some of the red cabbage. Making it in those nice colours in there as well. And you can just adjust the seasoning on the vegetables yourself as well as you're going. And that's going to capture all of the nice flavors. And the good thing is you can fill your plate with all of this, because this is all good stuff. This is, you know, not calorie dense. It's pure fiber, pure flavor, really. And then using a slice, fish slice or a spatula, very carefully, I'm just going to pop my piece of cod. As you can see, it's just flaking apart lovely. You see, this is a great technique for cooking. You don't need a lot of heat to cook fish. The mistake people make is they just keep adding the flavor or the heat on. And then with my salsa, as you can see, that's just looking really lovely there. And then with my salsa, what I'm going to do is just, I'm not going to put it on one piece, I'm going to put it everywhere. Nice gingery, loads of fiber, and a great one just to fill you up. Can put a little piece of your broccoli more on the top there, and you're getting your piece of cabbages. And this is all about colour and freshness. Could put a little squeeze of lime juice on top of that to finish, or even a little drizzle of olive oil if you liked. But for me, that's all you need. Lovely piece of, I suppose we could call it a little piece of steamed cod with all of our mango ginger salsa, broccoli and red cabbage. Enjoy.